activity is called Mystery Shape. Each page is going to look something like this, where you have a collection of shapes. You're going to have some clues that you're going to read that will eliminate shapes so that you can then solve what the mystery shape is. So one of these is the mystery shape. These clues will help you get rid of some of the other shapes. And at the end, it's going to ask you how many diagonals that shape has and how many lines of symmetry that has. We'll go over what that means at the end here. But so first, looking at this, we've got a trapezoid, an isosceles triangle, a regular pentagon, a square, a rhombus, and a right triangle. Remember, an isosceles triangle is when you have two sides that are equal or congruent, right? So those two are the same. That was a little bit smaller. A right triangle is a triangle that has one right angle in it. Remember, right angles are angles that you'd see in a square, right? That are perfectly squared off, 90 degrees, as we say. Okay, so just looking at this first one, it's number 1 says the mystery shape has no right angles. Oh, well, we were just talking about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross off the ones that I can get rid of. So if the mystery shape has no right angles, what shapes couldn't it be? Couldn't be a square, and it couldn't be a right triangle, right? Does anything else have a right angle in it? No, it doesn't look like it. Number 2, its total angle measure is not 360 degrees. Ooh. Now, kiddos, do you know the total angle measurements of different polygons? If you don't, I'll tell you right now, if their total angle measure is 360, that means it is a 4-sided shape. Think about a square. Okay? It has 4 90-degree angles. So if you take 90 degrees times 4, 9 times 4 is 36. Add the 0, that's 360. So that's what I always kind of base it off of, because then if you think about a trapezoid, it's almost like you're stretching these two sides, or this one side out. So this angle, while it gets smaller, this angle gets larger by the same amount. So it's really just balancing out. So every 4-sided shape, I think everyone, at least the vast majority of them, are going to have an angle measure total of 360 degrees. So if it's not 360, then we need to get rid of our quadrilaterals, our 4-sided shapes. So the trapezoid's out and the rhombus is out. And lastly, it has fewer than 3 congruent sides. So if it has fewer than or less than 3 congruent sides, we talked about an isosceles triangle briefly, that has 2. So I think that's going to be it. And it's definitely it, because looking at the last one, if it is a regular pentagon, that means that all of its sides are the same length and all the angles are the same measurement. So this has got 5 congruent sides. So that is out. So my mystery shape is, I don't want to write this whole thing out. So I'll say I try. Oh, that's pretty ugly. Angle. Should use a text box. The I means isosceles. I triangle. It has blank diagonals. Now, when it asks for how many diagonals, a diagonal is how many times you can go from one vertex to a different vertex in the shape, okay? So I'll tell you right now, the isosceles has 0, okay? The reason why it has 0 is if I take this vertex, there's only 2 other vertices in this shape, and either way I have to be traveling along the edge. A diagonal has to go through the shape. So just as an example, if I looked at this rhombus, how many diagonals does the rhombus have? Could you figure that out? It would have 2, right? Because I could make a diagonal that goes from that vertex to that vertex, and I could make a diagonal that goes from this vertex to that vertex. So those would have 2. But because we're not doing a rhombus, we're doing an isosceles triangle, my answer would be 0. And then lastly, how many lines of symmetry? So remember, a line of symmetry is a line that you would draw on a shape so that if you folded the shape over that line, the two sides would be exactly the same. How many lines of symmetry does an isosceles triangle have? It's got one, right? And it would be right through the middle down this way. There is my line of symmetry. I couldn't go this way because it's not an equilateral triangle, right? These lengths going up are greater than the length here. So then if you folded it over, it'd get wonky. The only line of symmetry would be this one down the middle because this half matches up perfectly with this half. Okay, so that is how mystery shape is going to go. You're going to use the clues to figure out which shape we're talking about, and then tell me how many diagonals and how many lines of symmetry there are. Take your time. Do a good job.